Hello, podcast listeners. You've chosen an excellent episode of JJ Meets World. We're going to talk about Burning Man during this one. And you might say to yourself, I've already heard the Burning Man episode. Well, this is different, okay? I also pose a question to Tucker about whether or not he likes something more than another, and he gets dumbfounded. All of this and more on this episode of JJ Meets World.
1, 2, 3, 4.
J.J. Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure.
Yes, he is.
He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. J.J. has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirled as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called J.J. Meets World.
Which is better, pancakes or waffles?
Oh, damn it. I almost said pancakes, but I got shit.
Right?
Waffles are pretty amazing.
I agree. And I think you can do more with waffles than you can do with pancakes.
You could easily, you can make sandwiches out of both, breakfast sandwiches out of both. To make a waffle, you need a very specific piece of hardware to do it.
True.
But you can use, any pan you want at home for a pancake. I will say this. I think we compare them because they're breakfast foods that we put syrup on.
And they're flour-based.
They're flour-based, but I don't think I would ever go, oh, I want pancakes. Oh, wait, they got waffles. I'll do that instead. I'm either hungry for one or the other.
Oh, see, I consider them almost interchangeable.
Wow.
I
thought I knew you.
Here's the thing that I like the most. With waffles, you can do things like this. You can take some Thanksgiving leftovers. You can take the stuffing and press it into the waffle maker. Press that. Put a little mashed potato on there, some turkey, dollop of gravy, and you've got Thanksgiving waffles.
Good point.
And waffles you can eat, I think, at many more times of the day than pancakes.
You can make pretty good quesadillas with a waffle maker.
Yeah. But on the flip side, the NDSU Meat Lab produces a thing that they call the Carson Wentz sausage, which is a bratwurst.
Does he really need his own sausage too?
He does. And it's got blueberries in it. And so it's a blueberry sausage, and you wrap that in a pancake, dip it in syrup. Oh, you've got a morning hot dog.
See, I want to know, though, did they go, hey, Carson, what's your favorite breakfast thing? So we'll name it after you.
No, it's a girl, Carson Wentz. Carsyn. Wentz, spelled Whenitz. Carson Wentz. Who are you talking about?
I almost believed you. For like the first 5 seconds, I was like, oh, I'm spelling it. Oh, okay.
It's because I looked you dead in the eyes while I was saying it. I told a guy today who asked me if he could get free tickets to an event, and I said, listen, just walk in there with purpose.
Oh, yeah.
And they won't stop you. Especially if you go like, oh, I'm so busy right now. And there you can get into so much stuff.
That's how I sneak cheeseburgers into movies.
Is it really?
Just put them in my shirt. And pretend like nothing's wrong.
I've done that with you before.
I actually have a great memory of you sneaking burgers in. I forget what movie we were going to. We were meeting each other there.
Yeah.
I was sitting in the audience. The movie was like starting. And on my drive to the movie theater, this would have been a Sunday matinee, I was like, God, I could really go for some double cheeseburgers at Burger King. Nah, I don't got time. I'll do something like that later. Sitting in the studio, in the audience, lights go down, movie starts, JJ shows up, dumps 2 double cheeseburgers from Burger King in my lap. You'd had the exact same idea.
Yep.
But you followed through with it.
Also, I believe we snuck Subway into the Pink Panther.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. We did a lot of sneaking of food into movies. You and I had a real streak there of seeing Steve Martin movies. So that Looney Tunes Back in Action, which we've talked about before, that we enjoyed so much.
Well, I guess we never went to Pink Panther 2.
No, because we saw Pink Panther. There was no need to go see Pink Panther 2. What is something that I would like to see that I have not yet, though, is Burning Man. And we've talked about Burning Man on this podcast before. Our 2 guests today, Mike Ressl, Christina Johnson, talked about what it's like to put together Burning Man on a previous podcast. And now we get to talk about what it's like after, when the experience is still fresh in your mind, because they just got back from Burning Man 2018.
Yeah, so if you want the before, check out, check out episode 3 of JJ Meets World.
And if you want the current, just continue to listen.
Episode 52 going on right now.
All right, let's get this thing going.
JJ Meets World.
Good afternoon, podcast people, or evening, I guess you could listen to this in the morning too. Happy 11:08 to you, single person listening to this podcast at that time. AM or PM? That's going to be your choice. Definitely not military time. Mike Ressl, Christina Johnson, both previous guests of the podcast are now back from Burning Man. We talked to you pre-Burning Man, and now we're post-Burning Man.
That was episode number 3.
Episode number 3, and this is episode 52? Mm-hmm. Holy smokes. Almost 50 episodes later. Look at that. So first and foremost, we want to know, how did Burning Man 2018 go? From both your personal experience and from an organizational standpoint.
Oh, yeah, because I don't know if I can generally speak to the entire organization, but it went very smoothly for me, and actually it went really, really well. I'd say one of my best so far.
Yeah, the event went smoothly. I had a few personal hiccups here and there, but I was taking a little more responsibility, and that went great. And the actual event went great too.
Now, how many times have you each been to Burning Man? What was this for you?
This is my 7th burn, and it was my 4th time working DPW.
Okay.
This is my 12th burn and my 11th time working.
Wow.
Christina was a boss this year. She had minions.
Yeah.
Who would give you minions?
I know.
And did you refer to them as
some
minions?
Things, and they're like, I think
No, she did not.
They would have let me.
Do you call your minions
yeah.
old dust devils because you're out in the desert?
No, that's way too cutesy for DPW. There was a lot of meowing. If that helps my
meowing
handle out there
is
is
it
mom
the affirmative
cat,
or
so
the negative?
It's kind of everything.
So it's very difficult to really understand.
Yeah, no,
Be
totally.
like, are they going to go and clean that?
One of our descriptions in Shade is that we're working like a well-oiled bag of cats. So
I think meow is yes and meow is no.
Oh, really?
I think that's how that goes.
Okay. Mike, tell me something interesting you saw this year that you had never seen previously.
That I had never seen before. I have to think about that. It blurs together.
Why does it blur together? Because there's so much sensory overload that you're taking in?
Because everything's informed by the overarching context. I mean, you could see someone in like playing a trombone or playing a tuba with flames shooting out of it, but you just walked past something else that was shooting flames out of it at you, surrounded by naked people. So it's not that person with the tuba was diminished. It's that, that you kind of already seen versions of that. But by itself, if you saw that just down the street here, it would blow your mind.
And you saw that? You saw a tuba that was shooting flames?
No.
Okay. So that's life goals for next year.
I have seen him out there. He goes out there he's one of the gentlemen who's worked on The Simpsons. He's famous. I can't remember his name though. He's part of the cast of the one of the producers or something. And
sweet.
Yep. Well, and it's great. He actually plays the tuba, so he's playing it while it's shooting flames. But he's usually a one-piece band.
I can think of a couple things he saw this year that he liked.
Oh, yeah?
Sure. She has a better memory, even though I wrote it all down.
He got to interact with a robot, and he really enjoyed that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Now he lit up. He put down his Pellegrino.
Yeah, you said the magic word, robot.
A legit Johnny Five robot, got its own tread wheels, can move around autonomously. There's not a person inside of it, but there's a person somewhere, presumably, controlling that thing. And it was adorable. It had a squeaky voice. It had some sort of transcoder, so it sounded more childlike, right? But could turn its head and look at you, and you could shake its hand, and he'd be like, hold on a second. And then he'd pull up his arm.
Like, hold on a second. Okay, yeah, right.
And then his claws would go like this, and then you could shake his hand, and he had a little tray that would open that you could put stuff in.
Yeah, he had gifts in there. You could see what other people had given him.
Yeah. Oh, it was amazing. The logistics of that, let alone the technical prowess necessary, it was very impressive.
And are you saying the assumption is that someone was there in what's it called?
Black Rock
okay.
City, sure.
Black Rock City, Burning Man. Who not just had a remote control, but probably had like a video signal too, so they could see everything the robot was doing.
Absolutely.
And they were far enough away. We were in a plaza, so if you imagine
it's a fairly public,
a giant
populated
open
area.
They had to be far enough away that they could maybe tell where it was, but they couldn't tell what we were doing or doing to it or what we looked like.
Oh. So they couldn't see you. Whoever was there wasn't
They
like
could,
a camera
they could
mounted.
only see us through the robot. But I couldn't see on the robot where the camera actually was.
Okay.
But it because it had like a motorcycle helmet, and then the rest of it looked just like Johnny Five, where it's got like treads and it's mostly exposed wires and metal and all that stuff.
Did you do any research into where Steve Gutenberg was at that exact moment?
No, was he there?
No, that's what I'm wondering. Did Steve
He
Gutenberg
took his skin off and he
take
was hanging out.
the concept of Johnny Five from the movie Short Circuit that he starred in, or for that matter, is Ali Sheedy somewhere?
To be fair, though, anytime JJ is in a large crowd of people, he asks, "Is
Where's
Steve Gutenberg here?"
here?
I haven't seen him on film for a long time, so maybe he's here.
See, here's the thing. I did the same thing for years with Michael Winslow as a joke, and then Michael Winslow turned out to be there, and I got to meet him.
Whoa.
And he said, "I heard that you were asking for me," and I was like, "Yes, I was, Michael Winslow." So you met a robot. Did the robot have a name?
I don't remember his name. I remember the conversation had already.
But you'd recognize him if you saw his metal
I
face.
would.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
yes. The
definitely.
conversation had already started. We formed a crowd around him. We were with a group of people. But
Yeah. He also really enjoyed, there was an art car we hadn't seen before that was a giant church.
Really?
it was called
Yes.
the Sanctuary. Yeah, if you can imagine like a
semi-sized piece of church.
like an
Just
80
driving around.
foot
Lots
long,
of the lighting was fantastic. Big steeples, very gothic.
very gothic, but with lasers. Lots of lasers.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It was just really captivating.
How are people powering things out of Burning Man? Is a lot of generators?
A lot of generators.
Lots of diesel. Whatever makes the most smoke.
There's a few people that try to do solar stuff, but
That
it's
was my
mostly
question, was
mostly
like-
generators.
I mean, I guess
Gas generators.
How often is there cloud cover during this? Or
It's usually
dust cover.
it's usually sunny. I mean, the bigger issue with solar stuff that they deal with is dust, keeping everything clean. But it's more just the amount of solar panels you need to power what they're doing. It just isn't feasible yet, especially for how much they cost.
Yeah, but
Maybe.
on a smaller scale. And there was one year where they brought out, someone donated hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of panels that powered the man. And then after the event, it got donated to one of the schools on the reservation nearby. And so every time you drive out there, you can actually see the big giant solar panels they have. So, but it's not as common. It's just not quite efficient for the level of crazy that they're trying to put out.
We've really come a long way in generator technology. They're quieter. They're producing more power for less fuel. So I imagine that places like Burning Man should be the testing ground. Like,
I mean, the generators that I've seen out there haven't changed much in the
Really?
7 years that I've been
like
going.
you're telling me that like Honda isn't sending out like hundreds of generators to be like, well, if we're going to test these things, this is the place to really get them going.
Nope, not that I've noticed.
So, because they
Bunch of
wouldn't
hippies on drugs in the desert. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
That's who you give generators to.
That's exactly what I want to give them to. They used to have commercials for Samsonite where they showed a gorilla. They put a Samsonite like piece of luggage in a cage and let the gorilla just go to town on it, throwing
Yeah,
it all over the
I
place.
remember those, yeah.
So if I'm going to test my generator and to see how well it actually works, I'm going to give it to a bunch of hippies on drugs in the desert.
I mean, for all we know, that's what's on some of those bazillion-dollar art cars. I mean, who knows? We don't see what's on them.
Oh, yeah. I saw
We
the-
just see what, the org puts in camps or what people leave out in the open. So
How do those things arrive? I mean, is there somebody driving down the highway, like driving next to the giant church semi?
a lot of those are on semis when they come out.
and then they're assembled.
They're assembled in place.
Yeah.
So you don't get to see this magical thing going down the highway.
Unless it's something like a 747 that you can't disassemble and you need to shut down the entire highway to
Hey,
get out there.
They do disassemble that even.
So
which
that's
is
a
why,
good. It's a good
why we have
place
a
to bring this
fiasco
up. Yeah. So let's talk about this. I think the big story that I've seen following Burning Man, big enough that it actually hit the North Dakota like Associated Press wire, is that there's a 747 or a chunk of a 747 that was left. And there's a question of like, okay, so what happens to it now? Because your conditional use permit only goes from point A to point B, correct?
When it's for a certain period of time. Yeah.
Yep.
So it
The
expires.
747 was almost immediately, once the event ended, moved out of Burning Man's permit area.
Okay.
So it actually has nothing to do with Burning Man, the organization or the event at this point. So the group that, I mean, if you've read the articles, the group that made it intended to move it to a property nearby, and there's been issues with that. And so, now it's just sitting out there.
Out in the desert.
And,
So they had a property they intended to move it to, and they essentially realized, oh, that road isn't going to work, or lack of road. And they were like, well, we'll just build one. And BLM said, no, you can't do that on that land. It's protected. You can't just build roads.
Now they're like, we're going to put down some temporary things and drive it over those. And it just hasn't happened.
Right. In the meantime, obviously, I'm assuming the logistical, weight of trying to move something that big is a little difficult. So it's just sitting there. It's just sitting there. There have been I've watched numerous videos of people just going out, checking it out, flying around it.
So
Which was a much better chance to get on it than you had during the event. So.
Why did someone bring a 747 to Burning Man in the first place?
Well, it had been there the year before. It was an art project. It got kickstarted, and a big
the
group.
kickstarting only paid for a portion of
What
it.
was the project though?
Yeah, it was
wasn't just hey, help me buy
to
the
make an art
747.
car out of a 747.
Yes.
Okay,
because
Because it would be the biggest art car that had ever been out there.
got it.
Yeah, and they stripped out. I mean, most of the interior. So when you go in it, there's like these like monolithic metal walls that you walk past, and then it's all carpeted, and there's just kind of like a common floor. They do all kinds of stuff in there, I'm sure. But then past that, there's some seating, and then there's like a top captain's deck where you can go up and the roof is open, and then you can also go out on either of the wings. The wings are cut off, they're like platforms that you can be out on. So you could fit hundreds of people in there. It's one hell of a party. And then sometimes they will move it around the playa, but I'd never actually seen it move.
And it's just on the back of a truck, or does it still have a
gets-
motor
It's
that
on
can
its
drive?
wheels. It gets pulled.
They
pulled.
use a tow, just like they pull actual planes. You don't actually need that big of a thing, but it just needs to be able to attach to the plane. But it got criticized as well for being fairly exclusive.
It had the top level was VIP pretty much the whole event.
For some reason, actually, I know exactly why. That's making me think of a defunct reality TV show that I don't think went past one episode, which was Man versus Beast. And it was matchups of different competitions of humans versus animals.
They had like 150 little people pulling a 747 or an elephant.
Yep, and the elephant smoked the little people.
Yeah, of course it did.
But also, what was really great is the elephant crosses the finish line, and they don't tell the little people to stop.
And they're struggling.
They still make them do it. It's like, don't make them do that. And why do we have to? I mean, I bet 150 not little people would have had the same issue.
Oh yeah, it's an
It's
elephant.
an elephant. I can't think of. I don't know if humans won any of the. It was a tug of rope with an orangutan.
Mm-hmm.
It was a foot race first against a zebra and then a giraffe. And the guy alleged the giraffe got a false start.
Yep.
I mean, did they use little people for
Nope.
a lot of
Nope.
them?
No, just the elephant
Just in
one.
that one.
Just in that
Yep.
one.
So here's what's interesting. I believe that show had one of the highest. Like, it only made it like maybe 1 or 2 episodes tops, but it had huge viewership numbers. The problem was it also was just a gigantic scandal of exploiting animals as well as people. And so I think advertisers were like, we'd really like to buy this.
Yeah.
But we don't know what product to market.
They also did a hot dog eating competition between Kobayashi and a grizzly
Yep.
bear. And the grizzly bear smoked him.
Yeah, because it's a grizzly
Because
bear.
it's a grizzly bear. Anyways, that made me think of that.
Maybe they needed to have them doing more philanthropic things.
Who can clothe the most children? This ostrich or a wet nurse?
Who can write the best grant? This college professor, this chimpanzee.
The chimp wins.
Yep.
Do you ever watch The Simpsons? Anyone here ever watch The Simpsons?
No, not anymore.
There's
Well, yeah, not anymore.
great episode. I mean, we're talking like back in '94, where Burns, I can't remember who he's showing around his mansion, but he goes, "Here they are, 100 chimpanzees working on 100 computers, writing the world's greatest American novel. It was the best of times. It was the blurst of times, and all the chimps are smoking like too." Whenever I think of a chimp.
What kind of animals do you see at Burning Man? Do people bring animals to Burning Man?
The only people that are allowed to have animals out there are approved service animals and then DPW, because people are out there for 6-7 weeks and can't necessarily find someone to take care of their dogs specifically. Then they can get a special permit to bring it out.
Got
but
it.
You really don't see them.
But I could bring
But
my
look-
turtle.
If it was in an RV and it never left, and I don't think there's specifically
No,
a
I
law
let
that says
him-
you
he's a
can't have
free-range
turtles.
turtle.
Might I be so bold as to say, from the videos I watched on YouTube today, you don't need to bring animals because the human beings are more than happy to be your animals.
There's a lot of people dressed up as animals.
Right.
Sexy animals?
Who would like to be
Some of them.
dogs or cats?
Or sharks or cows.
There's a whole parade of at least half sexy bunnies.
What is the ratio of sexy naked people to definitely not sexy naked people at Burning Man?
Man, I don't even know if it's half and half.
Also, how do you define this? Because you've said some stuff to me in private that makes me think that's not that sexy.
Yeah. You've also said some things to me in private.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, what is,
Well, I didn't ask
give her
and
some
I didn't
context.
ask myself. I asked this couple sitting in front of me who have to watch what they say in front of each other because Christina can be like, oh, I can't tell him that the giraffe was sexy because then Ressl will know I have a giraffe fetish.
I think people become sexier the longer you're exposed to it, because you gotta understand, like, you don't normally look up old man porn, right? So when you see your first, we have this bar that we set, like, it's not Burning Man until you see your first naked old dude.
That's how you know the event
That's
has
how you know
started.
the event started. So they're
It's like every time I go to my dad's house, it's just Burning Man.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep, he fit right in. So once you see a bunch of those people, I think they stand out more. Or when you know, there happens to be critical dicks where there's hundreds of naked dudes just biking around. I think they stand out more. So, but there are just as many naked women or other attractive people that are men or whoever that I think would fit in that attractive spectrum. So I think you just have to get acclimated to.
He's saying he's not into naked dudes. That's what he's trying
Pretty homophobic
nicely
of
to
you,
say.
Ressl.
I think there are people that
Are you cock shaming these guys?
I think it's probably because Ressl has not found an attractive enough naked man.
Well, Ressl knows
This
that
is a trap.
everyone has someone to compare someone else to, right? Well, he compares attractive men to himself.
No.
And so he's like, I have not found a single person nearly as fuckable
That's originally
as I am.
how Snow White started. Was the evil stepmother would just get naked in front of the mirror and she'd be asking, mirror, mirror on the wall, is there someone sexier than who's right in front of you right now? And then one day the mirror was like, well, you know, we just
Ressl-
turned 18.
Ressl pops up, she swipes left. She's like, no. That's what the magic mirror was. It was Tinder before we had
It
Tinder.
really was.
Really was. Show me exactly what I want to see right now.
Oh, she's already with 7 other guys? Damn!
I recently made a fake Tinder account so I could look at Tinder.
What's your name?
I'm not going to say.
What's okay,
Just look
just
for
give
his
us your first
picture.
name. Just give us your first name.
Begins with a K.
Okay.
Okay.
First name's Kevin.
Kevin.
First name's Kevin.
Okay.
The thing was
And
that
he looks exactly like Tucker.
I've never. Oh no, I got a fake photo.
It's
But
Ressl.
I made a guy who was as like undateable as possible, so no one like tries liking it. And I'm not liking anyone's pages except for a friend of ours who I'm trying to catfish. But I've never been on Tinder before, and I'm not looking for a relationship right now. But I wanted to see what it's like, see who's there. Maybe I'll recognize some
What
people.
are you afraid if someone sees you that you know, like that they'll find out your signal? Or
No, I think if you're on Tinder, you're saying I'm looking for something, right? If I'm not looking for anything right now, I don't think I should
you
be
could
on
be just
Tinder.
looking for friendships. I mean, I gotta tell you,
I'm not looking for friends. I have so many friends, Mike. Here's the
There are
big
people
difference.
on
Sometimes
there.
I'm just looking for
I have
people
a
who are in the
shit
same
ton of
hotel
friends.
as I
You
am.
have a little bit. Most of them are in the desert once a year.
That's true.
Okay.
But there are a lot of people that just want women that just want friends on there, and
there a-
I think they'd be just as pleased.
Why don't they
to
just
swipe
use
right on
Burning-
you.
Is there a Burning Man app?
No.
I mean, for what?
Oh.
Can you set your
do
location
like
to
an
Burning
app
Man
that's
and
like
Tinder?
Burning Man, and it's got just like things that you need to know in there, and it's maybe got a social element to it.
There are apps that alert you to where events are happening. There's an app that just tells you when the big burns are happening. I mean, people have written apps
apps.
related to scheduling
Can
it. I
you
mean,
change
Google
your
mapped the
location
whole
on Tinder
thing.
to Burning
Because
Man?
here's the thing, I downloaded.
It would
I mean,
work out
Google
there.
would automatically know you were there.
But I haven't used it.
Like
I haven't
your
tried. I just
GPS.
forget. You just forget. I think it's not taboo, but there are people that are sensitive to seeing people on their phones walking around because they want to know, like, wait, what? Because sometimes they feel like they go out there to get away from the technology or their connection with the rest of the world, and it's jarring, I guess.
And any cell connection you get tends to be pretty erratic once
Sure.
the event starts because there's just too many people
I
accessing the
downloaded
towers.
an app called Burning Man, thinking because I was researching, our conversation here, and it's for chlamydia. So
Like
it is not.
Burning Man. Like,
yeah, and it looks like it's a fire, but it's only at the crotch.
It's the Burning
So
Man.
yeah, it's
the
the
Burning
Burning
Man.
Bush, which also is another chlamydia-based app. It's
Looking
really
for Bible
unfortunate.
verses, but
Yeah. So how was the weather? Was it hot? It's friggin' hot.
During
was
the
pretty
event,
hot.
not really. The event was pretty manageable this year.
So obviously, whatever
it was
question we
damn
ask
hot
has to
before
have
then.
context to it.
Yeah.
So, what is your definition of hot, Christina?
My definition of hot was pre-event when the heat index was like 117.
Okay, Ressl,
That was
what's
hot.
your definition of hot?
Because that happened. That set the bar early on, and so then it got to the event, and we thought, oh, this is nothing. But
This is
then all
lovely.
the people are coming, all your friends are, and they're like, oh, it's so hot out.
You're like, no, it's not.
No, it's not really.
So I've never been to Burning Man, but heard a lot from you guys talk about it. And I've heard a lot about how for the regular people who go, the traffic going in and out when you're arriving for the event and leaving for the event sounds about as bad as like trying to get into Disney World or something during a rush. And it seems almost counterintuitive as part of the experience to me that I want to get out and get away from all the shits of civilization, the things that I don't like to have to deal with.
You're thrown right back into it.
And you're thrown like, oh, now I've got 4 hours to go half a mile to get in. So can you kind of talk about the logistics and what the traffic is like? And is there any plans to fix it, since I'm sure Burning Man grows every year?
It grows slightly. It's still a shit show. I mean, you're talking a 1-lane highway, for 60, 80 miles. And as soon as you get out onto the playa, right, they open it up into 10 lanes, but you're sitting there for hours and hours in the heat. When you leave, they do a thing called pulsing, where they have everyone wait for like an hour, and then they wait for everyone to go, and then they release everyone in waves. But logistically, I've looked at some of the internal documentation. That's actually the biggest challenge that keeps them and the population back. It's because the North Dakota or the Nevada Department of Transportation and the other agencies are concerned about all the pressure that it puts on the infrastructure. And if it starts to back up to the big highway in Nevada, it could just cause a lot of accidents and concerns. They have what's called the Burner Express, which is a bus system that buses are going around the clock both directions, and those would bring I think they brought maybe 10, 15,000 people this year, which is a huge percentage. It's a massive percentage, and it's super convenient because you're bypassing a lot of the line. You're all in one vehicle hanging out with everybody, and you can still put all your luggage and stuff on there. They also have a service where you can fly right into Burning Man from Oakland or Reno, San Francisco, and other cities.
Like on a private jet or charter or something?
Tiny little planes.
You could pay like $300 or $400, I think, for a one-way ticket, which is amazing. I mean, being in the air anywhere around the city is beautiful. It's the surrounding area is beautiful, and then just seeing that thing is crazy because it's just so weird looking.
Are there drones? Have drones become a part of the situation?
So when it first started, there were just drones everywhere all the time, and then
when the drones first started,
when they
Burning
first
Man
started, yes. Then they started permitting it. So now I think they only give out less than 60 permits.
Wow, that's not much at all.
Although this year there was I didn't see the performance, but they had this giant area that was just a giant wall, and you go up to it, and you're like, what the heck is that? How do I get in there? And then at night, what they would do is they would have a drone performance where they would have, I don't know how many, 50 or 100 drones that were all synchronized. And so they were all doing patterns and flying around.
Those things are amazing. I don't know if you guys watched the opening of the Olympics, but they incorporated that drone technology into it. And it's what you've hoped to do with fireworks for the last 25 years. Only they're doing it with drones instead.
Ressl, when I talked to you about this year's Burning Man a couple days ago, you said something to the effect of like this was your best Burning Man yet. So what was it about this? This is your 12th?
Mm-hmm.
What is it about Burning Man number 12 that sets it apart from 1 through 11 for you?
I'd say two things. I did a lot of events, and I did like one social experiment. I did a lot of things that sort of put myself out there, and then when anything creative kind of pays off, or you get a lot of feedback, that's always amazing. And then the group of people we had, and some of the weird things we did together, it just sort of it all blended together. I laughed more than I have any other year ever, and they're all really these small idiosyncratic moments, but they were just really beautiful, and all the people that I shared them with, it sort of fed my soul in a just awesome way. And there was some overlap there, like some of my friends or people that I met that helped me with the things that I did, or the other people that I met. Although it was the first year I didn't go to anything in the book, like I didn't go to anything that was scheduled, and that's never happened before. Like I'm someone that I actually go through every single event and look, and I think I was working so hard doing my own stuff, and everything that was nearby that was happening really spontaneously was just exciting enough that I didn't even feel pulled in a whole lot of other directions. So, yeah, I mean, really good for me.
What you, Christina? Was this your best year?
Sure. I mean,
That's not a yes. That is not a yes.
I mean, I feel like they've all had their moments. Like, I suck at favorites to begin with, so I'm not sure I can tell you a favorite year. Some stuff went better this year than went last year. I've done a mural on the fence around the Center Camp Cafe for 3 years now. Last year I spent all freaking week painting. So my actual event was cut down quite a bit because I was painting at like 5:30 in the morning, and so I'd fall asleep at like 10 or 11, and it made it really hard to hang out with people. Whereas this year I was done by Tuesday and walked away from it, so that was nice. I made some great scores at the Black Rock Boutique. So I had new outfits, like costumes, that kind of stuff.
Like what?
I got this really great like marine style military jacket that just fit perfectly. So,
Cool.
that was basically like a super short dress. So, wore that with some booty shorts. It was great. Did some like, G.I. Joe villain face paint to go with it. It was great.
Does anyone ever just do like Tatooine cosplay, like Tusken Raiders and things like that out in the desert?
Jawas.
Yeah, I've never seen straight up Star Wars so far. It's probably out there somewhere because there's no way people could resist that.
It's very rarely culturally inspired, I think. It's now that you bring it up, I
Like
think
pop
about it.
culture, you don't see a lot of it.
No.
There's some here and there, but
And I'm guessing it would, if I saw it, it would be like a stormtrooper wearing a loot, like with like a grass skirt on or something, and some other thing, like taking pieces of like a costume and incorporating it into something else.
I have seen an art car that is a giant sand crawler, but and I've seen.
yeah, like there's just the kinds of pop culture that make it out there for costuming are. You're more likely to see somebody like, I don't know, dressed in a Pikachu onesie than you're going to see a stormtrooper. Like, it's just.
I feel like I saw a picture once where I'm like, well, that's one of the props from the movie The Flintstones that somebody has held on to for
That's
25
super possible.
years.
You have so many people coming from LA and, that kind of area that, yeah, people are reusing for their camps, stuff like that, when they can get their hands on it.
There's down in, I think it's Hawaii, they filmed Kong, Skull Island, and of course Jurassic Park. And you can go and you can tour like the ranch that Jurassic Park was filmed on and go to all these iconic spots because most of that stuff is still there that they used. And then for like Kong Skull Island, they built these giant like skeletons that were Kong's parents. And those, they're like at the end of it, they're like, well, it's too much for us to like take out of here. It's like the 747. And so they left it there. And the people who own that ranch were like, no problem, because we're going to start selling tickets. And you can still go to part of the desert and tour like Luke's house from Tatooine.
Oh, really?
And I mean, you have to drive out to the middle of nowhere, and it's like $150 US. But you can take that tour, and those things still stand there. So much so that when they made the prequels, they were like location scouting, and someone told George Lucas, like, well, this stuff is still standing. We could just go shoot back in the Mos Eisley that we built 20 years ago. And he's like, that sounds like a great idea. And then we'll green screen the rest of it.
So can you go to Jurassic Park?
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's helicopter tours that give you all the sites that they
And there's
used,
four-wheeler
but-
tours. I mean, yeah, it's great, and it looks just like it. So the field where like the Gallimimus are charging, it looks exactly the way it does. So you can stand exactly at that dead log and get the same perspective that Sam Neill and those kids would have had.
Oh, can you imagine how annoying it would be just constantly reenacting all the parts from the movie? That'd be amazing. That sounds amazing.
Does that sound sweet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Add that to my bucket list.
There you go. Yep. Burning Man.
Noted.
You'll go to Burning Man, and then you'll have your yearly expedition to go to the Jurassic Park Ranch.
Yes.
in Hawaii.
So, did either of you get ill at all? Any heat stroke? Any dehydration? Bronchitis?
I got a pretty vicious head cold
Yeah.
pre-event. it was up there with the worst colds I've ever had. I toughed it out. So I was a crew lead, and I didn't want to create more problems by having them have to find someone else to step in for that. So I toughed it out until we were almost done with our build. And then I finally was like, yeah, I just can't. I need a day off.
I'm done.
Yeah, it was hard to catch up with just the stress and the physical stress and stuff. Yeah, I lost my sense of smell for about a week and a half, which was the longest I'd ever had that happen. And I couldn't stop talking about it, especially when we were eating, because it was all I could think about. After about 2 minutes of eating, I'd just be like, I can't taste any of this. I can't. I mean, I can taste sweet, sour, bitter, whatever. That's it. It all tastes the same after that. And it was so distracting. I also couldn't smell the porta potties. So that was great.
There's a silver lining. My grandmother had cancer in her nose, and so she had to have radiation treatment in her nose, and she lost her sense of smell after that.
Yeah,
and her sense of smell, of course, directly linked to taste.
Yep.
And so she said everything tastes like cardboard now. And so after that, her cooking just went down the dumps so fast. But it also, she said, it's also super economical because she goes, I buy the things I need to survive, the
you don't
nutrients
care
my body
anymore.
needs, but I don't need to take it. And I was like, oh my God, there's so much pleasure I get out of eating.
Yep. Oh, the day it came back, it was insane. I was also getting really concerned because I was having some special bread brought to me from friends that were coming out, and I still couldn't taste anything. And it was like they were coming the next day, and I was going to be so angry if I couldn't taste it.
Oh.
And it came back that day, like the day they brought it out. I could smell in the morning, and then it kind of went away at lunchtime, and it came back at night, and then it was pretty much solid the next day.
It's a burning manicle.
Yep,
It's a Burning Man miracle.
The whole event would have been a little soured for me if that hadn't come back.
No
in time.
pun intended.
Yep.
Yeah. How about you? Any illnesses out there, Mike?
Nope. I think I dodged. I didn't break anything.
I think he came out with this tiny bit of a cold, and for some reason that was enough for him to fight off whatever else it was.
I
Built up some tolerance.
I enjoyed watching everyone else struggle.
Oh, you just hear, just in the DPW camping area, it was just hacking from every direction because it spread out so fast. And it was all staggered, so some people would start getting better, and then the other half of your crew would go down with it. And then I dropped an impact driver on my head right before we finished teardown. And I sort of freaked everybody out because I only dropped it from maybe I left it on top of my ladder. Terrible idea. And then I moved my ladder. And so it fell maybe 3 feet onto my head. And
battery end down or?
Well, I think it landed sideways, but I had one of those belt clips on it. So it was a little sharp metal thing. So anyway, it fell on my head. I was like, who the fuck hit me? Oh, right, me. Okay, great. That was dumb. Climbed back up the ladder to work, and then stuff started dripping off my head. And I was like, oh, God damn it. So I was bleeding all over the place.
Head wounds bleed quickly.
Right? Yeah. And I'm not sure there was a sensation I had experienced before. You don't feel it right away because it's the same temperature as your body. So it's not until it's dripping on you that you notice.
My dad dropped a hammer on my head one time when I was 3.
Oh,
Your dad also
explains a lot.
hit his own head with an axe.
Yeah. Yeah, no shit. Yeah.
I got a small scar up here that disappears when I furrow my brow, but when I'm not, you can see it a little more. And I was using a hammer overhead, and I was like, ooh, this nail's going to be really hard to pull out. And I'm standing on 2 floor joists, not even on solid floor, and I go, ugh, and it comes out immediately, and it comes back at me, and the hammer had turned, so I took the side rather than the claw or the top. But it pushed a pair of sunglasses into the top of my head, and this did not stop bleeding. I also did not have medical insurance at the time, and I was like, I do not want to go into debt for something that I could put a Band-Aid on. So I went and got 2 of those butterfly Band-Aids to hold it together. I'm like, okay, so this will be fine. I must have gotten up 5 or 6 times in the middle of the night, and I woke up and there had been a pool of blood underneath my eye. I'd been bleeding so much. I was also that week doing a thing in Yankton, South Dakota, where I was training the police in how to react to people who are in different stages of mental crisis. So I end up having this giant bandage that looks like a pad, it looks like a feminine
Maxi
pad,
pad
over my
face.
head. And at one point, one of the cops goes listen, you're bleeding directly from your head. And this is in a scenario. I think we should go. And I suddenly was like, oh my God, I'm bleeding from my head. And so I checked. I wasn't bleeding from my head. That guy was making it up. And it scared the living daylights out of me. Wish I would have just gone in and got stitches.
Yeah.
And I called urgent care, and I'm like, okay, how much would it cost if I came in and I just needed stitches? And they're like, well, we have to give you an exam for this. Well, if I told you I just want stitches, sir, we don't do that. You can't just come in and a la carte your medical. And I said, okay, well, guess who's not getting any business today?
Fortunately, we had free medical access, so that wasn't a concern.
Did you go? So you went into the tent?
I called the medics when I did it just to have them check it out.
Yeah. And what do they arrive like in an old timey ice cream cart? They've turned into an ambulance.
The old timey delivery van showed up just before them. The fluffers were driving that. They just happened to stop to see how we were doing because it was the end of the day. And I was like, "Oh, we're fine." And then they're like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And
So
I'm
no,
like,
this
"No,
is
it's fine."
You're talking about a group of people that go around making sure the men have erections?
Yeah. If I guess you asked for that and they gave consent, sure.
Well, then why else do you call them fluffers?
Mostly they fluff us with cold drinks, electrolytes, candy, snacks, bars,
That's not
chips,
sexy.
that kind of stuff. Sunglasses, feminine products, toilet paper.
I mean, are these name brand things or are these like homemade things? Like, are they giving you homemade candies and homemade feminine products?
It mostly comes from Calexodus, which happens at the end of the event. So DPW sets up a couple of stations on the exit roads and says, hey, give us all your shit that you don't want to transport the rest of the way home. Your liquor, your food, your whatever, your clothes, whatever you want to get rid of, just not your trash. So yeah,
so they only want the good stuff.
Yep, we only want the good. No bones about
The rest
that.
is your problem.
And so you're being given year-old electrolyte drinks.
Sometimes they do go through all the expiration dates because they are actually fussy about that. And then those are the first things they give us at the beginning of the next year. Like, you got to eat these first, and then we'll give you new stuff.
Hey, Fluffer, can I get some help over here? I just need to get hard again. Well, I can't help you there.
I've only
got
got
some
candy.
expired Gatorade from last year.
Whoop! Thanks, fluffers. What's the thing that you experienced this year that was the thing that like made your like Dear Diary, and it's the first thing that you noted, whether you liked it, whether you're like, I just don't understand this, or you thought it inspired you for something else?
Dear Diary, I learned about the tubes this year.
What are the tubes?
The tubes.
So we spent a lot of time in the container this year for other reasons. So Burning Man has a service where you can rent a shipping container and shove all your stuff in it at the end of the year, and they transpo it out somewhere off-site and store it for the rest of the year. Right. Well, you can imagine these containers also turn into like their own mess of random crap from all the other years.
You're like, oh, I don't need this year. And I don't want this year either. Just put it in the back of the container, and then that just gets bigger and bigger.
The camp that most of our friends and family stay at has a giant structure they put over their tents called a monkey hut, which is mostly made of PVC and tarps. But all the PVC that they don't use, because not as many people come out into that camp every year, was just sitting in the container. And we were all getting messed up, hanging out on the porch one night really late.
Maybe there was some perception altering substances involved. Maybe not.
Coffee?
Lots of
Get some
coffee.
caffeine?
Scary movies.
Aspirin, make your headaches go away.
I went into the container and I pulled out one of these tubes. Now they're about 15, 20-foot PVC. And they're about that big, like the size of a Coke can.
He's making a thing with his hands. Just the theater of the mind here, Ressl.
And I ran it out of the porch. So like there's this metal facade or this wooden facade that's just holding up some board, like the boards for the lost and found that the camp's based around. And then there's a bunch of couches behind it.
Like a little bar facing the street.
And I don't think I did anything with it. Initially, I ran out and I lit it up because I wanted to run into it because it was going kind of out into the road. And then I think I taped a dinosaur to the other end. And then my companion,
like how he's like, I think I taped a dinosaur to the other end. I can't really remember if I did.
It was just lights at first. The dinosaur didn't come on until a little later.
Ree saw what I was doing and immediately just started doing what I was doing. I don't think he knew where I was going with it, but he took out about eight.
So then he was
tubes.
bringing all of us a tube.
Every person was sitting on the couch with their own tube.
Yeah.
With a different thing taped to the end of that thing.
Yeah, I had a flamingo,
and
like
we
a plastic
would yell
lawn
through
flamingo.
the tube at the people that were walking by on the road. And I don't know if you understand.
Now, this is like 3:34 in the morning.
The general like climate sort of the sentiment sort of morphed a lot, but like people screaming for their body or
there was a lot of I need a body in various forms of distress.
And telling people to stop, or like, oh no, they shouldn't go any further, or it's only nightmares, or they should come and talk to us.
Also, I still had that hella cold cough going on, and I would hack my lungs out into the tube. So there was a tube out there just
Did it
hacking
look
at
like
you.
the dinosaur was saying it?
It would. You kind of
Maybe.
you kind of
I don't
wiggle it, and
know.
the dinosaur would flop around, and then there's this weird disembodied voice shooting out of whatever's taped to it. Right?
Yeah. We did have a couple of people. Now, this is about just before sunrise. A lot of people would just studiously ignore you because there's a lot of heckling that happens at Burning Man too. Like, people are out there with megaphones trying to get a reaction out of you. So, maybe they'll be like, hey, nice shirt. And then you turn around and look at them. I wasn't talking to you, that kind of a thing.
That's a good one.
Names.
It's a really good one.
You guys have
like that one a lot.
like,
Yeah.
you're going to hate hearing this, but this sounds just like WeFest. It sounds exactly like
There are a
WeFest.
lot of
part of it
similarities.
sounds like
Get
it.
a chest cold,
all
talk
of
through
this.
some tubes.
Yeah.
All of this. I mean, people invent stuff like your tube thing just to now they're mostly yelling like, hope your daddy doesn't know what I'm gonna do, and things like that.
A lot of
but
racism.
there's a lot of heckling. There's a lot of there's fluffers out there.
See, I'd love to see an event where they merge the two, where
There's
they
a
bring
crossover.
where they bring WeFest and Burning
Toby
Man
Keith
together.
is working on it. And Willie Nelson, of course, wanted his pot festival.
Yeah.
Which could have been called
Could
Burning
have been
Man.
that, yeah.
It just, I think they're the things that happen when giant groups of people get together in a place that's not permanent.
Sure.
And so, I've
I
heard
would say
like,
a lot of it at Burning Man is actually fairly good-natured.
and you know what? But I mean, there's a lot of stuff at WeFest that's fairly good natured.
Okay.
And the people who love and see each other, you only hear the bad things about it. And I'm not trying to be like rah rah WeFest. I hate country music.
But isn't WeFest also the kind of place where it's like, hey, congratulations, guys, we only had 2 murders this year. Only 2 murders this year,
See,
guys.
again, this is there's never been a murder on WeFest property.
okay.
The last death was a gentleman who had a heart attack overnight, and he just had a bad heart. It wasn't because he was up partying too much. Before that, they had a guy who had too much to drink and was running after Miranda Lambert's trailer, tripped over a piece of piping, exposed piping, and headbutted into the trailer and ended up being brain dead after that. And so,
that's dark.
I mean, that could have happened at anywhere. And I don't know why I'm trying to be like, you guys are giving WeFest too hard of a time here. But you only hear about the awful things. I saw some really cool things at WeFest over the years, and the way people used space. The way that they said, okay, I've got my campsite is 20 feet by 20 feet, and I want to maximize the amount of fun that I can have here and the comfort that I can have. And so the things that they would build offsite and that would get brought in, and they would spend 5 hours putting together 1/4 of it. I mean, I was always pretty impressed. Now, you're talking about a much larger operation. I think at most we had 35,000 campers. What do you end up with at Burning Man?
70 or 80.
So,
really, I didn't realize. I thought it was bigger than that.
well, that's only the people who are camping.
Okay, so
And
the actual event, like concert,
Yeah, it can
part
get
of
up to
is-
like 65, I think. Maybe 70 is the
Okay.
absolute
So
most.
huge. It's
It
huge.
is massive. And to think of how long do you guys spend putting together Burning Man before people get out there?
I mean, the primary build's like 3 weeks. so-
Sure. This they do like in 8 days.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's just a bunch of good old boys. But I think I've been to other major group activities.
Have you
So-
been to Coachella?
I have been to Coachella.
Yeah.
Now, Coachella, I think, is one of the worst examples of giant festivals
Well, but why? It's because I've never been to it.
because it has been so corporately farmed out, and there is such a difference between who is of means and who is not.
Oh, really?
That if you're not going to buy a VIP package for $10,000, you might as well not even go.
Wow.
And that is unfortunate because that is not the way that festival started.
Really?
Yeah, the original idea was everyone buys a ticket and everyone can get to wherever they
Same,
need to
same.
be. Yeah, and so
That's too bad.
yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Not
know,
go
like-
to Coachella.
Yeah, not go to Coachella.
Definitely.
I've also heard people say that Bonnaroo has drastically changed since more corporations have gotten involved in it.
And let's not forget about Fire Festival.
Yeah.
I mean, that didn't even start.
Yeah. It was there, and then it was like, never mind. I have a friend who was at what was it called? Governor's Island, or it was like a concert festival that Kanye West was a part of in New York, where you had to take a ferry out to one of the islands, and that's where the concert was going to be. And then there was a slight downpour. I mean, not much rain, a drizzle, if you will. And so they canceled everything. They panicked. They're like, oh, we can't have all these people on this island with a major rainstorm. So they canceled. And people were pissed, just pissed. And so Kanye West starts tweeting, well, listen, guys, I'm in the city. I'm going to be at the street corner. And why don't you come and I'm going to put on an impromptu concert. And so now the city of New York is like, hell to the no. And so he and Kim took one of their kids to go see The Lion King. And when they came out of The Lion King, something like 8,000 people were standing there waiting for their free Kanye concert. And he got up on top of a car and he's talking. But unless you were one of the first 100 people there, you can't hear what the hell he's saying. So those are the type of moments where I just think wow, big groups of people, man, they can accomplish a lot.
Yeah. So I've gone through some of the photos and stuff that you've posted from this Burning Man, and there was a photo where you were sitting in a tent or something with a bunch of people sitting around you, listening to you speak. I know you often will give presentations and things like that. So what did you focus on this year? How many talks did you give and about what?
I did 6 talks. I did one on spirituality, 2 on UFOs, and then 3 on collapse. So they're not really presentations per se. I'm more interested in just facilitating a group discussion.
So it's a guided discussion.
And if the group gets big enough, obviously it's hard to hold one conversation if you have more than 50 people. So when that happens, about half of it is I usually have everyone break down into smaller groups, and then we sort of circle back. And I have a set of questions for each subject where that I'm interested in or that I ask of everybody, and I try to draw forth from different people in the audience, depending on how familiar they are with a lot, ufology, for example. A lot of people that are just interested in it, they don't know anything about it. So sometimes you have to really single out a few people that have read the books or are in the field.
When you're discussing ufology at Burning Man, is there room for UFO skeptics in that? Or is that basically, we're talking about the chances of UFO sightings being legit, things like that? Or
there are definite legitimate UFO sightings because by the definition of UFO, we're talking about something that we can't explain, right?
You're right.
But what I would say, there definitely is room for that, but I don't think it really attracts those people because unless someone specifically wants to go and try to, rail or debunk, they're just not going to go. But you get people that are more, I think they're more agnostic or they're just curious.
Yeah.
That's usually the furthest where the baseline is. I haven't really found anyone that can hold a candle and have a very, they have a background enough in it that they can throw anything back and forth.
Why can't people be Christian and also believe in extraterrestrial life? Does
can't?
anywhere in the Bible say that, listen, there's nowhere else that God's going to do anything? He's just, nope, it's not happening.
I don't know. My grandmother, the older she got, the more open she was to that. And she was really Catholic.
My grandmother believes in both Jesus and aliens.
Yeah.
Absolutely 100%. 100%. When I think Burning Man, I'm always thinking art installations and naked people doing awesome drugs or, partying or having a good time in the desert. I don't really usually hear about people doing intellectual pursuits, conversations like that. How much of things like that happen at Burning Man, where you go to Burning Man, you're not just exposed to amazing art and some life and mind expanding opportunities, but actually detail enriching, talking about certain subjects where you actually learn something there.
You could spend all day, every day, I think with the exception of in the evening and the night, being at talks, panels, workshops, classes,
absolutely.
Talking to people
Pretty
about
broad range of subjects too.
Everything from sustainability, alternative forms of energy, alternative ways of living, relationships, technology, cryptocurrency, all over the board completely. Because there are a lot, they're pulling a lot from wealthy people in California, and so you have a huge community specifically from Silicon Valley that are into tech and know a lot and can do a lot, and they're bringing out projects that are really complex and ambitious, and they also want to talk about how they're doing it. So
Because you used Google Glass out there, like before Google Glass was the thing, wasn't it?
I saw it on Sergey Brin's face out there. I didn't actually use it out there. He was just hanging out,
He doesn't wear it anymore.
Nope. Not a thing.
It's too bad that Google Glass didn't take off. I always judge tech companies by what their biggest failure was and their willingness to get right back on the saddle and keep going. Because lest we forget, like companies like Apple spend millions upon millions of dollars marketing the Newton, which 2 people, I think, purchased and used.
Well, like Elon Musk gets it. To sell something, it needs to be attractive. And
Yep.
it needs to be a version of the things that people really, truly want. And I think early on with Google Glass, there was that wow factor. We're kind of getting into an augmented reality world and that people were thinking about. But the actual product itself, for whatever reason, didn't hit home hard enough for consumers to want to actually go for it. One of the reasons why Teslas are so popular is because of just how aesthetically pleasing they are. I mean, besides everything else, people might want an electric car, but they're not going to want one that's shaped like a brick.
Yep.
Right? They're going to want one that's got all this other stuff to it. I
Unless
wonder how much of
hamsters
that
are driving
Yeah,
it.
like you see someone with a Google Glass on, they're kind of fucking stupid because it's like a headband with no frames and like a little monitor on one side. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
I think cars also already occupy an existing, spectrum of things that are essential to modern,
you
American
occupy an
life.
existing spectrum.
Glass is like trying to fit in there. Like, do you need to check your email while you're looking at your newborn baby? Like, and pay a premium for it. Like, obviously Tesla also costs a premium, but I think
At the
they're,
moment.
they're radically trying to push down into that lower level. But I haven't been in one or interacted with one. So
You know what I like about Elon Musk is he's like, listen, I need some funding for this. How are we going to do it? Let's sell a bunch of flamethrowers.
Yep.
And like what I consider a very reasonably priced flamethrower, $500.
Well, they're not a flamethrowers.
They're
but, you know.
roofing torches technically,
Yeah.
but that's why it
They are
says
flamethrowers.
that's why it says not a flamethrower like on the box when you get it because that's what they had to do to bypass like different countries that wouldn't let you sell
amazing.
flamethrowers. Yesterday I made a personal
flamethrower.
goal for myself.
To make a flamethrower.
No. In 5 years, within 5 years,
Design a flamethrower.
I want to be
Elon
fully
Musk?
electric, no motors with gas or anything.
So how are you going to power your flamethrower?
I'm going to get an electric one.
An electric flamethrower?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm interested.
Listen, like if we can have all the things we have now, I think we can have
mean
an
you
electric.
Can I tell you what I
Past
think
that
is
So I just
one of
mean,
the
like,
biggest
vehicles I
bullshit
drive.
things about the new Ghostbusters movie that came out? It works perfectly well with the proton pack, but in this, they're not really capturing ghosts. You guys see the new Ghostbusters movie? It's horrible.
Unfortunately,
demons
yes.
and stuff.
Didn't see it,
Yeah, it's demons, so they're not, but they're not capturing them either. Like in it, they use the proton packs to like bring them up, and then they bang them against the ground, and then they're fine. And it's like a giant carnival game. And then there's one where it's like a shredder, where you can like suck the ghost in and shreds it. And I was like, listen, are we watching fucking Casper the Friendly Ghost here? Okay, what kind of laws are we using here for science?
Such a sexist, JJ.
No, I'm not. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I'm not sexist. Because that movie was garbage.
It was
from
bad.
start to finish.
It was bad.
So bad that recently I downloaded the app Movies Everywhere, which is Disney's version of a digital platform. But what they've done is movies from like Ultraviolet and Vudu and all these things, they make it a hub. So if you've got some digital movies with this service and some with this service and some with this service, it's all put into one. So they said, good news, we're going to give you 3 free movies if you link your Disney account with your Vudu account, with your Ultraviolet account, and your Sony account.
Sounds like so much work.
It wasn't, because all you had to do is sign into these other accounts. And
Okay.
I already had digital content with all of them.
Gotcha.
Now, the worst part was the 3 free movies they gave me. Big Hero 6. I was like, sweet, I enjoy this movie. This is a lot of fun. And then Ghostbusters and then Ice Age 3 Continental Drift.
You can see where they see
Right.
You can see what plane they put that movie on. Yeah.
And it's like the unedited, like the unrated Ghostbusters, so it's an extra 25 minutes longer. It does not make it better, and it does not clarify any story elements.
Is there a movie theater at Burning Man?
Yeah, there was.
There has been.
for quite a few years the Black Rock Bijou, and they would show like really old science fiction films or other B.
Occasionally they'd play like the Wizard of Oz. Well, they would play different stuff during the day because then you could take kids to it.
Who brings
But
their
at
kids
night-
to Burning Man?
There's kids at Burning
There's a whole
Man.
camp called Kidsville.
Amazing parents.
Well, it's a collection
Wow.
of camps even.
Yeah, right.
like
Are all the kids like naked and doing drugs too,
No.
just in their own little camp?
No, they have like bracelets
Like, they just have
on.
to stay
It's
there.
like, if the kid gets lost, you could find where the kid was. Normally, I see them on the edge of the road, like ready to shoot you with a super soaker. You
Yeah.
know, or trying to give
Adorable.
something away to you. Yeah. They take them on field trips and
The
everything.
movie theater was fun though because you'd go into the front of it and like there'd be the full concessions array of candy and they're just like, "What do you want?" And you're like, "That." And they just give it to you.
Oh, it's
and there's
amazing.
just something magical
Especially
about that.
Especially at 2 a.m. when really a free
I
candy
can have
buffet.
that king size Snickers. Really, just it's mine now. Can I have that too?
The,
yeah.
The first time I went into the theater, they were playing. It was Leslie Nielsen was in this really old science fiction film. I can't remember what it was.
a really old science fiction show.
A really old science fiction film.
I think he did like
It was a film.
movie, a full movie.
Yeah. Anyway,
You also have to climb.
Oh wait a
through
minute,
this-
hold on. Is it the one where he like kills Ted Danson and then Ted Danson comes back to life and he's watching it on a CRT monitor?
No,
this one was
this
so
is
old
older than
that I almost didn't recognize him at first.
Okay, never mind.
But they were
Because that was called Creep Show. Fucking great movie.
really okay.
Yeah.
The volume was turned down too low, and the people running the theater didn't notice. But what that made it into was like Mystery Science Theater, where everyone in this small room is just making, competing to who could make the funniest joke. And
You have to climb into the seating area through like a 2-foot door, and then you like crawl out into this like, oh my god, there's so many people in here, and then you're like sort of walking over them to try and find some place to sit. It's very surreal.
Is there air conditioning in that theater?
God no, and even at night
but
it's
it's
hot.
only
to
at
walk.
night. It's only at night.
Don't want to go.
What's the policy on flatulence at Burning Man? Is it just let it go?
Open air only?
In
you know.
enclosed spaces, no go,
No go.
no
Yeah,
go.
I don't know if everyone adheres to that. That's
Yeah.
his policy.
Well, yeah. So,
Ressl doesn't fart.
so one of the other things I did
He
this
was
year,
telling me he did when I lost my sense of smell for a week and a half.
I was experimenting.
Yeah.
which
Sure,
was-
it's just
I gotta tell you,
you
it
were
was a
testing
joy.
to see if she
You
was
let
full of
yourself
shit.
fart.
Yeah,
I like how I choose if I fart or not. It's a choice I make.
yeah. My butt I'm not just relaxed all the time.
Yeah.
Like you're like an open pipe down there or what?
No, but you're making it sound like you're like, you know what? I'm going to decide to fart right now, and then you choose then versus other times. Your body, you don't choose when you have to fart. The need to fart arises, and it's like, well, either I'm going to suck it back up into my body, which is going to cause medical issues, or I'm going to just let it go because I'm a human being who produces this stuff.
Maybe, you would notice, Tucker, if you just don't fart once, it builds up and it stays in your body, and then you can fart anytime you want. So
Like,
when
you have
it's
a supply of
appropriate,
it?
like when it's appropriate.
Yeah, I
Name an
don't.
appropriate time to fart.
Somewhere in the bathroom or away from everyone else.
See, I
Downwind. Downwind.
always
Downwind.
thought
do you fart into the toilet?
That never. I mean,
Are you just farting in the bathroom?
there are already other things going on when that's happening.
Right, but maybe I'm just peeing. So I'm asking you: do you take down your
the
pants
mu-
and fart?
Usually, when you're peeing, the muscles
so you
don't.
can flush your fart down.
Yeah, fart first and then shit on top of it. That's the best way
Hold
to do
it down. Yeah, hold it down.
Because if you fart first, it'll skim across the top of the water, hit the poop, which will break that, and then it'll just encapsulate on top of it.
It's called the ripple effect. Look it up.
We're trying to improve your Burning Man experience here, Mike. And I also want to improve your intestines because I have a feeling you holding in those farts all the time
No,
is
they're very strong.
it's a reason you're so
I
I
will
mean,
say
you
this,
can do all
I
the
agree
farting
with
you want in a
that
porta
if you're
potty.
in an enclosed
It's not
space,
gonna
you should
change
not
it.
be farting.
It is. So one of the other things I did this year, I didn't mention, I built so we took one of the containers and I made it a dark room. It's pitch black. So it's a
Would be
blackout
why
cloth.
we were hanging out in there. So
Right, I think that was my favorite. My favorite part wasn't actually the tubes. It was this dark and closed space. So I wanted to I read about this social experiment from the 70s this year called Deviance in the Dark. So in the 70s, these psychologists put a bunch of college kids in a dark room, like a 10 by 10 dark room, eight of them, and they just observed their social behavior. And they did a control where the room was lit
and
up.
they went in there anonymously and left anonymously.
So sure. So the idea was the kids would go in one by one in the lit up room or the dark room, and that they were told when they left they would not have the opportunity to connect or interact with any of the other participants. So the idea is that especially in the dark room, you can remain completely anonymous as much as you want. And I thought, well, this would be. I immediately first want to do this to Burning Man, great place where people are willing to do weird things. And I realized, we have a container. I literally have a room there. I don't have to build. I just need to find a way to ventilate it and cover it up and then put it in the book, and maybe people will show up. And people did show up. And we shoved some people in there, and it was amazing. But yes, while I was building it, I had to figure out a way to ventilate it in the event that, someone like Ree was in there and decided that it was the perfect time for him to empty his bowels. Yes, exactly. Yes.
So what happened in the dark room?
So I originally was I set up some audio monitoring equipment because I just wanted to make sure no one was like killing each other. But it wasn't working. So I went in and sat in. I just asked them if I could sit in there, and they're like, yeah, of course. And I just sat and listened for the last half. And so I didn't actually hear what they exchanged in the first half. And interestingly enough, it sounded like they exchanged some fairly intimate things such that like no one would relate them to me secondhand afterwards. But they had one conversation, and most of it was them, talking about their week and their Burning Man experience. But it was very quiet in there, even though there's a lot of shit going on outside. It was very relaxed. And then towards the end, they started playing this game where, so they were referring to everyone by the number that they came in by. It's like, oh, you're number 4 over there. Whoa! Number 6, right? Because no one was really saying their names. And they started playing this game, and they went around the room one by one, and everyone would try to guess everything they could about that person based on everything that they had said previously. And so they would try to figure out, like, how old are you, or what do you do for a living, or what are you into? And all sorts of comical, like, weird, idiosyncratic guesses. And they got better at it as they went on. And then I realized, because I was sitting there, I had this idea, I could offer to have them all actually meet each other afterwards, but only if it was unanimous. And they were like, yeah, that'd be a great idea. And so they all met each other, and they said that made it even better because they'd just gotten done trying to figure out everything they could about each other. And they had a bunch of other meaningful conversations. The idea, what the psychologist found was essentially that people they had much higher emotional sensitivity and the much deeper conversations, and they were just more conductive to forming, interpersonal relations, basically. And in their experiments, some of the kids, they extended the experiment a little further, like in time-wise. I only did it for an hour, but like people would touch each other and kiss each other and stuff like that. But there was none of that in this. It was mostly just everyone having one conversation.
Right. You have the opportunity to be completely 100% honest, which is something that our society does not afford people.
It's dangerous
anymore because folks like Tucker are trying to catfish people on Tinder.
Only my friends.
Only his friends.
Only my friends.
Right. Online is difficult.
That is amazing.
It was fun and it was beautiful, and I totally plan to do it again. And then it served this totally unexpected dual purpose where we would go in there, like after a long night of being out there and just overstimulated, and you would when you're just sitting in, I don't know the last time you were in a perfectly pitch dark room, but
it's amazing.
It's super relaxing. You're in there with a bunch of your friends. The room is big enough where you can move around without your friends noticing necessarily. And so I
instantly don't want to be in a room with you.
Yeah, you don't.
So
especially not Ree.
You'll
I don't
be
know.
having a
Thanks to Ree,
conversation.
you're sitting there, and all of a sudden there's like an Oreo just crawling
all of a
into your
sudden,
mouth.
Ree's hand is on your
something
chest. No, he was like he would put his hand on your chest and then crawl up your body, up past your neck, and put the Oreo in your mouth. So many things like that. It was
giggling the whole time, obviously.
Absolutely hilarious.
Of course.
Yeah, that was my favorite part of it. Just because it was so relaxing, and we were all hanging out, and then people would see one of us go in there that didn't know that we had set it up in the village, and they would wander in there, and then we would all get really quiet. We wouldn't say anything. They'd be like, "Is anyone in here?" And then of course everyone starts giggling and losing their minds. But it was absolutely hilarious.
Wow,
it's really beautiful.
I dig that, baby.
It was a lot of fun. I'm definitely gonna do it again. As long as I can still find some way to monitor it and stuff like that. Yeah, super low maintenance. Literally just need a pitch black room. So, yeah.
Love to see that happen.
And a bunch of strangers.
Like here.
I think it would work anywhere. I mean we interviewed everyone kind of beforehand to make sure they were sober and didn't have any lights on them, and they weren't going to fuck with anybody.
We also got really lucky that thanks to it being Burning Man, no one showed up on time. So it
sure.
was staggered. If
Nice.
everyone had showed up at once, that would have sort of
what are you
ruined
here for?
the anonymity
Nothing.
aspect of it.
So I had to have a team, one person for each person that was going to show up to immediately take a person that was interested and separate them from everyone else, so they wouldn't have a chance where they would see anybody else, and then separate staging areas. And then I had to remember where those staging arears were.
Then there was the guy who got left somewhere
so
for
that
20 minutes.
Yeah, we just like the person helping me just completely thought I had to put him in there, and I hadn't. So he was just sitting in the middle of camp, just waiting for half the time, and he was super amicable about it. But I felt so bad. Yeah, it was funny.
This makes me think of two things. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Two things. Number one, it sounds like a really great beginning to a Law and Order SVU episode where it's like a music festival where it's like Burning Man-ish, but it's in New York and they're tearing down at the end. There's someone who's dead inside and no one knew how long has this person been dead. It's a pitch black room.
Yep. Cindy shows up. They bring her in, and then the lights go out, right? And then it's just darkness, and then you hear and you hear some crime, and the lights come up, and she's dead now.
Yeah. My idea is different and better. And then two, it makes me think of, I hope that the marketing world never gets wind of this, because this sounds like a horrible Chevy Equinox ad where it's like, these people are not actors. And then you got them in there and you get them talking about their vehicles. And then the lights come on and it's that shitty dude with the beard. Yeah. And he's like, actually, the Chevy Equinox has won more J.D. Power Association awards than any other car, truck, and SUV in its category.
Terrifying. Yeah. It sounds like, though, the shipping containers, one of them could be used to make a pretty kick-ass camera obscura, since you can block the light.
What do you mean?
So a camera obscura is literally just basically a dark, like a pitch black room with like one tiny hole at the end of it that lets in light.
Oh.
And then if you have the hole behind you and you sit there and then look straight ahead of you, after a few minutes, as your eyes have soaked in more of the light, you'll see an image being projected upside down on the screen in front of you. So basically the very first camera anything was a camera obscura where they had no surface to record on, right? They had no chemicals. The most they could do is they would set up a camera obscura, and if there was like a fence or something that they could look at, they would trace it and create an image on the wall. But they did that at the Free Range Film Festival one time, where they set up a room as a camera obscura. It was pretty fun. It was pretty cool. But all you really need is an area where you have all the control of the light you need, and then you just drill a tiny hole at one end and maybe have something for it to splash onto, and that's it.
And enough time and room to sit in there for like 15 minutes. It takes your eyes a while to adjust.
Yeah.
Do you think people would lose their minds if there was a solar eclipse that lined up with Burning Man?
Well, so last year, or the year before this one, we were there during the eclipse. It wasn't a total eclipse.
Yeah, I think we were like 80-ish.
And it was...
Thank you.
It was like a week before the event.
Yeah.
And it was like 80% coverage.
Yeah, 80-some, I think, is where it landed
and
there.
everyone knew well ahead of time, and they'd handed out all the little glasses, and, but I don't think anyone, if it was during the event, like actually during the event, I don't know. I don't think so.
People would think it was cool, but
my understanding, based on the people that I talked to last year who had been to like actual festivals for that, they sounded very debaucherous and insane. So I don't know. Maybe
Not scientific.
not scientific. No,
It's unfortunate.
But a lot of
because
fun.
when I said lose their minds, I meant like with science.
Oh,
Like all these people being there about, the
Science
power of the heavens.
Science doesn't take away your mind; it just blinds you.
It certainly does.
See what I did there?
I did. I like that. Okay, guys. So let's wrap this thing up with Burning Man 2019. What do you guys think?
probably
excited?
It's probably gonna happen.
I'm gonna be in the desert probably summer.
next year's always better.
I still gotta finish my paperwork from the last one. So
What does that mean? What kind of paperwork do you have to do?
I have to do like an exit report, or like a this is everything that happened, and this is what went well, and this is what didn't go well, and this is what you should do next year, or I'm not coming back.
What do? You write that on a rock, throw it in a big pond, and then somehow that information gets back to Burning Man.
I send it
corporate?
directly to the
Burns stage.
CEO.
The CEO?
Yep.
Do you write it on parchment paper?
No, I don't. No,
No?
that'd be a lot of work.
Yeah, it would be.
It's not actually worth that much time. No, just got to get that feedback. Got to get it out of there. So
But yeah, make sure you do that before you have any opinions about next year's Blackburn.
Blackbird Wood Fire Grill. That's what it's called. No, I like the fact that you're not shutting the book on this one and like getting ahead of yourself until you finish. Like, I mad respect for that.
that's why this one went so well. It's because I stay overly organized, and then I have a little area on the spreadsheet where I'm like new ideas for next year, and there's a big list there already. So
You ever thought about doing like a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe for something you want to do out there?
no, I haven't. I guess I haven't come up with any ideas that I felt were expensive enough and that I needed to do, enough, because I've watched a few of those projects occur, and it's really it would take away my ability to do my actual job out there. So it'd be a trade off. I like my job a lot, and I like
that.
And the things that I'm doing are working just fine. They don't cost a lot of money. So
I mean, PVC pipe and a dinosaur sound like it was a ton of fun.
And we didn't even have
we
to.
already
Well,
got.
I guess you bought the
If we
dinosaur.
did what I know what we would do, we did a sculpture one year. It was about the size of a diorama, and a bunch of people that saw it said they wanted to throw money at it and make it life size. And it was like a commentary on the event. So it was 3 Burning Men. So, the Burning Man looks like this big wooden wicker man, and they were all they were a human centipede, but they were connected.
Yeah,
So-
ass to mouth in a big triangle.
Right. So, but each one of them represented a different piece of
Oh,
the
thanks for
event.
clarifying, Christina.
I
was just like,
I
oh, that
want
means
somebody
ass
to
mouth.
say that. Yep.
Right. So
I want you to picture it fully.
One is the participants in Burning Man who poop all the money into the Borg, the Burning Man organization, and then they poop all the jobs in DPW, and then DPW builds a city and poops all the infrastructure into the participants, and that's the cycle of Burning Man life.
And you get real people to do
Well,
this?
The pooping.
Yeah, no. Okay, each one would be a bar that you would climb into, and each one would have the aesthetic of that particular group. So the Borg one would be all bourgeois, fancy champagne. The DBW one would be like a biker bar, it's Mad Max.
That's
And the
PBR.
participant one would be like a rave where everyone's on drugs. Yeah.
And like you sit down on the people who are pooping.
No, you can
Like you
crawl,
treat them like stools.
you could crawl between all of them
You'd be like
seamlessly.
crawling
You're the
through their
poop.
chest.
You're the
so
poop.
you become the poop.
You were the
Yes.
poop.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. I'm now capturing this.
Yep.
That is freaking amazing.
Right? Some days. Well,
Listen, you get
somebody
that
does it.
going, and I will buy my ticket for Burning Man.
All right.
And then you burn
Great.
it down at the end.
Yep. Yes. Because it's all made out of wood.
Yep.
What about you, Christina? Are you looking forward to 2019?
Yeah, never again until next year.
Yeah. Good for you. You're not going to go to the mini Burning Man in between?
Yeah, nope. We talk about it every once in a while, but honestly, I don't know if I have the energy to
Just wear a helmet next time.
do the regionals.
Oh, we have a party here this year, February 23rd.
Regional burn?
Yeah?
Yep.
Yep. Smallest
Melting Man.
official regional
Melting
burn.
Man? Where
Melting
does it
Man.
take place?
At Jason Bai's house.
Sweet. People can find the address, I'm sure.
The melting,
just by simply Googling
the
it.
just
official
go to-
melting man
Yep.
is in his backyard.
Just go to ndburners.com. Yep.
ndburners.com.
Well, Jason and I are
I'm
both
surprised that
regionals.
wasn't taken by the people trying to legalize marijuana.
They had every state.
Maybe
No,
they've
they
got
didn't.
.org.
No, probably.
.gov.
Probably. Yeah.
Thank you guys very much for being frequent guests on JJ
Thank you.
Meets World. It's good to have you, and I hope you enjoyed our new studio.
We do. It's
Oh,
wonderful
yeah,
here.
it's fancy.
Yeah. I hear the person who runs this place, though, is a real biatch.
I would stay out of her way.
She
definitely.
fixed the towel machine in the men's room, though.
Really? Can she do
Really?
anything about the sewer gas smell that seems to be omnipresent?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
She's probably too
I don't know.
incompetent to deal with that
Yeah,
shit.
that sounds like pretty high level shit.
When they were coming back, I was like, Christina, you're back. Thank you. Fix the towel dispenser.
The one that only let this much come out at a time?
Yep. Yeah, that's overcompensating a little bit, but that's fine.
Yeah. End of podcast.
JJ Meets World.
Well, that does it for this podcast. Thank you folks so much for listening. Also, a pre-thank you to all of you who are going to go to patreon.com/JJMeetsWorld and give us a couple of coins, $1. If you give us rupees, like from The Legend of Zelda, I'm not sure how to turn that into real currency, but we'll figure it out. We've got time on our hands. All of our content here is free, so please, please, please consider if you've listened to every episode or if you've only listened to one episode, you can donate at patreon.com/JJMeetsWorld. You can also subscribe to JJ Meets World on amazing 21st century things like Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, not on MySpace because they haven't built in that widget yet. So I want you to do that. I also would love it if you could give us a review, especially if it's a good review. If it's a bad review, go to Molten On Movies and just rake them across the coals, okay? You can go to moonbasemaria.com. That starts with a www if you want to check out my producer, Tucker Lucas's work. All sorts of great things there. If you want to get a hold of your host with the most, head over to linebenders.com and you'll find direct contact information for me. Of course, JJ Meets World is the ultimate hub for everything JJ Meets World related. Hey, speaking of meat, so what do you think is the best meat of all the meats? If I had to pick what the best meat was, it would be free meat.